everybody's word. You're always the first one here.
I don't know if you turned it on. Go ahead, you're on.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is the regular board meeting of the Lammersville Unified School District Board of Education. It's May 6th. At this time, if you please silence your cell phones, and for information, this meeting is being recorded. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Roll call.
Matthew Balzerini.
Here.
Colin Clements.
Here.
Sharon Lampel.
Here.
Shane Nielsen.
Here.
David Pombo.
Finally here.
Casa Pungchai. Here.
All right, everybody's microphone's on, right? Shane?
Yes. See, look, I'm telling you, you've shorted my mic.
Approval and/or corrections to the agenda?
There are none.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Receiving of public comment. If there's any comments that are not currently on the agenda? You may step to the podium. Thank you.
I just wanted to take a minute to thank the board for your service. I've been watching social media, and some of the comments that I'm reading from other residents are so inappropriate. And I wanted to take the time to tell you face to face that I appreciate everything that you do for the district, all the time that you take away from your own families so you can educate our kids. And I just wanted you all to know how much I appreciate it, and I couldn't believe some of the things I read. Mr. Faubert, the update meeting last night, I was late, I missed the progress portion, but the portion I did see, I want to let you know I thought it was excellent. As a parent, you hit every concern I had, and every remedy that was proposed is completely made sense. And I left, I know you probably stayed until about 10, 11, 9:30, 10:30, because every parent was going to be heard. And I got to commend you for that. And Dr. Nicholas, it was awesome to see you have Ben's back last night, and I think it speaks volumes. And I just wanted to spread the kind word.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time to tell us that.
And kind of piggyback on that, I hope everybody understands that the district wants to do well. We want everyone to be happy. The board worked extremely hard to make sure that the district's functioning well. And more than that, everybody here that I know of within this organization cares and is willing to listen. And just because people don't like things doesn't mean it has to continue that way. We want to make things right. We want to listen, and we want to change things that need to be changed. So, we're all in this together. We all have the same common goal. So there's appropriate ways to handle things, and our job is to make sure there's a process in place so that everyone can be heard. And you'll be heard if you would like to. So, anyone else have anything they'd like to add? Okay, well said.
Very well said, thank you.
Any additional public comment? No? Okay, moving along. Consent items for consideration. We have the approval of the governing board minutes from April 22nd, acceptance of 2 resignations, one of them being a longtime principal who I feel appropriate to acknowledge tonight, Lemuel Vergara, his resignation effective June 17th. I have been here long enough that I actually sat on Mr. Vergara's interview. I wasn't even on the board then, I was a parent, but he's been here since the beginning of Mountain House, so I feel he should be acknowledged. And that's it on consent.
Mr. President, I have a procedural question. Do I need to abstain from voting on consent since I was not at the meeting that we're approving the minutes?
You do not.
Okay,
You may approve as you were here.
okay.
Mr. President, I do have a couple of comments before we motion. First of all, on the Athletic Booster Club, it says that we approved 2 with a reserve of an additional 2. It was actually, we approved 3 with a reserve of 2. It's become irrelevant because, as I understand it, Lavinia, the director of athletics, has rescinded the request from the Booster Club, but technically it was 3 and 2. And then the other item,
I'm sorry, which item was that on the?
I'm sorry, that was in the board report, that was this,
That was in the. Oh,
governing board reports section of the minutes. And then on the summer school discussion, which I believe was item 10 subpoint D. I read the minutes and I don't think that the concern of the board, I mean, appropriately, we want to make things better. I don't think that came through in the board discussion that we had, that, what can we do to make things better? I don't think that concern came through in the minutes. And I think, 6 months from now, when somebody reads the minutes, I kind of want to make sure that, while we don't say the sky is falling, I think that the importance that we placed on that discussion.
What do you feel that it should say? And again, I mean, the minutes, it's a weird thing, because the minutes are just supposed to summarize the discussion. I mean, luckily now we have video that if there's concern, you can go back to the video and actually see what exactly was said. But for the sake of the minutes, what do you feel should be?
You know what, with the video, I'm fine with that.
Maybe you want to add a word emphatically somewhere? I don't know.
Not really, just, the board expressed, the members of the board present expressed, concern and, that we were going to be following up to, ensure appropriate changes, because that's what we
concur with
did.
that. I do feel that we express concern. Maybe we can have the minutes reflect that the board expressed concern.
Absolutely.
Ms. Palumbo, you concur?
Yes, sir.
Thank
We'll
you,
make the
Mr.
amendments. It'll be posted on the website.
Move to approve the governing board meeting minutes for April 22nd, 2015 as amended.
Second.
And that's with the rest of consent, correct?
Oh,
He has to reword the motion.
I do have to reword the motion. Move to approve the consent items for consideration as amended.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion?
I just want to add too, I was actually on the board when Mr. Vergara was hired. It's been a long time, and he's been a principal at 2 different schools and was the principal for a couple of my kids. It's unfortunately not here, so I could say it to his face, but just to thank him for his long service. He's had a lot of challenges that he worked through in the district with regards to what he inherited at Wickland and then a brand new school opening at Cuesta. And in all of that, you never saw him without a smile on his face in front of those kids. You never saw those pressures on him on campus. And that is quite a testament to him and his character. And I would say this to his face if he were here tonight to thank him for it. And, both of my daughters would say that they would miss him, who had him as a principal. So, but just to say that, to thank Mr. Vergara.
I was remiss. I should echo that. I've known Lem since he came. My boys went to Wickland. I've always thought very highly of him, and I'm sorry to see him go.
And I just want to repeat something that I told Principal Vergara the other day, and that is that Tracy's gain is definitely our loss.
If he was here right now, I would thank him too, because a lot of the Cuesta kids who were at Mountain House High, because of him, we're all prepared and ready. We're doing well.
Okay, thank you. First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. District administrative reports. Item A, superintendent's report.
I have a couple of things to address real quickly, and then I have a presentation I'm going to give from the podium. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Shelley Morris and her grade level partner, Denise Bingham, who put on a presentation of world history review today that was spectacular. The kids were in costume, enthusiastic. They knew their information. They were up and down and all around. There was a facilitator who was hilarious, but it doesn't happen without excellent teachers who are putting that together. So since she's sitting here, I'll give her a quick shout out. And thank you. As a former history teacher, I want to tip my hat to you. That was well done. Second of all, we have a fundraiser correction. Staff has gone ahead and approved a fundraiser at the high school. A new situation for us. It was a previously approved event. It was postponed. The event was changed from a particular type of feed to a different type of feed, but in that switch from spaghetti feed to barbecue, it went from a tier 1 to a 2A categorization. And so there were some paperwork things that weren't done particularly correct, but we wanted to move that forward, inform the board to get the approval correct, and move forward. We have some educating to do again with our community organizations, but we don't want to get in the way of a good event.
Well, since that's one of my organizations, I probably can't stand in the way of that change.
And since I'm in it, competing, I would definitely like to see it go forward.
Well, yeah, it's already been approved. I'm just simply reporting, because what we made it clear that we have a policy, we want to follow it, and there's educational things. This was new because it was a postponement that switched what it was, and some paperwork stuff and stuff. So Alvina's going to do some educating, but I want to bring it forward and say we certainly want it to move forward, but we do want to also honor the work of our board subcommittee on facilities.
And I would say thank you to the staff. I know that when things come in wrong, it's kind of a pain, so thanks for your patience. I think everybody's trying to work together to make it, to do it right.
Make it happen.
So thank you.
Okay, Mr. President, board members, Madam Student Trustee, it's my pleasure tonight to make this presentation. It's a very important topic for our community and our board. It's called The State of the District Facilities Now and the Needs in the Future, because we need to have a real conversation about where we stand in terms of finishing our high school and the Hanson School construction project. So the first part is about terms. It's important because they're all interwoven throughout the second half of the presentation. So I've tried to take these terms and work them into workable words and definitions. So Mello-Roos Tax Community Finance District, better known as a CFD, State Matching Funds, Developer Fees, Shortfall Funding Mitigation Agreement, Community Master Plan, and Exhibit B are all going to be discussed, hopefully in slightly non-boring terms. I also want to point out that the finances, the numbers in terms of the costs, have either been rounded up or rounded down for simplicity. The idea is to understand about where we stand, not to get every penny exactly correct. So a Mello-Roos tax is a tax that's imposed to finance major projects. Schools are often funded through Mello-Roos taxes. This community and their community master plan is built around the Mello-Roos tax for our K-8 schools only, and that's the mechanism to pay for approximately 75% of the schools that we construct. The other thing our community needs to know is with a particular set of language in some of our CFDs, we have approval to take additional funds once a project is done and apply them to other projects in the district, capital-like projects. And finally, the term that comes up, special tax, is a synonym to Mello-Roos taxes. But this is an important part of the presentation tonight, is the way we fund our K-8 schools, at least 75% of it. The CFD, Community Finance District, is the mechanism where the taxes are paid. It acts like an escrow account. The money goes from the taxpayer to the county to pay the bill. And we presently have 3 CFDs that exist in our district. The 2002 series, which is paid for the building of Wickland, Bethany, and Altamont. The 2007-1, which paid for Cuesta. And this board approved last spring in 2014 one for Neighborhood C, Hanson Elementary, and Neighborhood D, which is undeveloped community property to the southeast of our high school, which is annexable into this CFD. State matching funds. This is a very serious term for the entire community. State matching funds is tied to state construction bonds, which are voter approved through a ballot. The last state matching, or the state funds bond was Proposition 1D, was passed in 2006. All of those funds have been identified for use, and so there is no current existing state construction bond to support state construction bond projects for schools. In spite of that fact, our district is working through a process. It's a long, cumbersome paperwork trail to get on the state matching funds list for when the next state construction bond is passed. So we are near completion of that process so that when the decision's made to build Hanson Elementary School, when we get on that list, we'll be able to bring funds to support the building of our schools. Developer fees, another very crucial term. A developer fee is a long-term loan. It's paid back to developers at an interest rate. The present interest rate that is tied to our developer fees is Marshall-Swift Index, and it presently sits today at 2.2%. The way the developer fee works is a developer puts up money up front. It helps for a major project. Mountain House High School was paid for significantly with a developer fee. The fees are assigned to purchase lots, and they're paid back over the development of a community over the long-term period. So developer fees, again, are a long-term loan where developers are paid back interest over the development of the community. How does a developer fee work? So for Mountain House High School, we were given the long-term loan of $52 million as part of the Phase 1 and Phase 2 construction of what we have currently at Mountain House. So we looked at the average number of lots sold over the last 4 years, and it's approximately 250 lots. So if 250 lots are sold per year at the fee amount, which is approximately $5,900, to pay off $52 million plus 2.2% interest is approximately 32 to 35 years if you figure in the ebbs and flows of housing markets. As of March 2015, the master developer of our community has been paid back just under $5 million for its long-term loan called the developer fee to our Mountain House High School project. Shortfall funding, which it works similarly to developer fees, but it comes with some rules. So let's say you have a project that you have the money to build through Mello-Roos taxes, let's say, and you can get it 75% done. If there's no state matching funds or ways to finish the project, and after all state, federal, and CFD identified funds are used, you can claim a shortfall, and the developers can put in the money to finish the project. They get paid back through a combination of, or one of the three of the following: Mello-Roos taxes, developer fees, or state funds.
Hey, Kurt, Dr. Nicholas, do you want questions? Will you entertain questions slide by slide, or do you want us to wait till the end?
Let's wait till the end, just because this is essentially trying to give, it turns into gobbledygook if we don't get a little bit of terminology out there. So this isn't really the presentation, this is the pre-presentation. So, all right, so mitigation agreement. There are presently two that are work within our community, but basically they set the rules, the procedures, and the responsibilities for the impact development has in a community. The mitigation agreements we have is one from 1998, which was originally signed with Trimark, who was the original master developer. Then that shifted to Shea when they took over that role. Shea is now out, and now it's Mountain House Developers LDC. The second one was signed in 1998 with Tracy Unified. It has a much smaller impact on us, but there are two. Community master plan is what drives our master plan community. It defines the provisions and phases of how things work. All of the things listed there, from the village concept to how water works, garbage, the town center, all the things are defined, and that was work done in 1994 that still drives our community plan. And that is overseen through the county. And finally, in the definitions and terms, Exhibit B. It seems unimposing, Exhibit B, but it is really a crucial document, and it really defines what we do. It's a school's facility phasing schedule. It's the guiding document. It applies to the map, the facility's costs and design. It's based on student thresholds of student population, and it's adjusted annually. So as villages get developed, i.e. Neighborhood C, then funding mechanisms and how things go apart or go forward to fund schools and take care of our district come into play. It's a very important document. So if you take a look here at the map, CFD represents this, a CFD represents this, and a CFD represents this. But Mountain House, the master plan, define how all this was created and will continue to be created over the long-term project that is Mountain House. So you have 6 schools in our district. The first was established in 1876. I have no idea how it was paid for. That was 139 years ago. But we do want to say congratulations. They did a heck of a job. I understand the building's in a park in Tracy now.
If I remember right, it was through a bond.
You voted for it.
I can't tell you because I looked this up. Ulysses S. Grant was president at the time. So,
Correct.
Because you remember.
He does. You voted for him too.
So in terms of the other Mountain House-based schools, Wickland came forward in 2004 with a CFD and developer fees. Bethany was with the same CFD and state matching funds. Cuesta, CFD 2007-1, state matching fees. Altamont Elementary, 2002. There are state matching fees, are funds that we have not received that have been identified. And Mountain House High School Phase 1 and Phase 2, the beautiful facility that we have now, was built as a result of developer fees, a mitigation agreement with Tracy, and state matching funds. So let's take a look at where we're at. Our district's 6th elementary school. This is the mock-up design from our architects that's been approved, and this is already through DSA approval and all of those steps, but that's what it would look like. How would we pay?
Could you mention what DSA is?
Oh, the Department of School Architecture.
Thank you.
So funding of Hanson Elementary. Right now, there's no construction date. Nothing's been identified, but I think we have a little over 10 students who now reside in Neighborhood C and attend other schools. And I believe there are already 120 lots sold or buildings built in that neighborhood. So it's important to start planning ahead. So the approximate cost today to build, or in 2014 to build Neighborhood C School Hanson, would be $32 million. So the Mello-Roots taxes that can be raised in that community is approximately $22 million, and that would go into the CFD from 2014. So to build the beautiful, amazing schools that we have to do the state matching fund so that takes our $22 million and makes it $32 million. So there are 2 processes. One is the one that I just explained to you, which is we have to get state construction bond money as the state match to finish building the school. Our present dilemma is there is no state construction bond with monies to be identified. So we're doing everything we can through our due diligence. We're getting the paperwork in, we're going to get on the list, and I have further information about the details of that, but it's important to understand state match and state construction bonds are married. We also have to be identified for funding, and we get on a list. That list is where we rank to get funded. If we were to need to build Hanson Elementary and we weren't able to access state matching funds, that would be an opportunity for us through the steps that I described of using up all the CFD funds, state and federal monies, and we could declare shortfall and go to the master developer and ask for shortfall funding in which they would give a loan essentially to finish the school, and they would be paid back through Mello-Roos funds or the other funding mechanisms. So, moving from Hanson to Mountain House. Phase 1 and Phase 2. This is one of the renderings of our beautiful high school. Phase 1 and Phase 2. This is a real picture of our beautiful high school, and that's part of Phase 1. So let's talk a little bit about Mountain House High School. So it was completed for approximately $93 million, Phase 1 and Phase 2. Phase 1 was essentially the planning costs, admin building, multi-use room and gym. Phase 2 is the sports fields, stadium, and classroom wing. Developer fees, the long-term loan, is $52 million of that $93 million. The mitigation agreement from Tracy, which was an accrual of funds picked up from commercial and residential development and tied to the Tracy mitigation agreement, $11 million, and state matching funds of $30 million. So what we have, we bought for $93 million, and those are the funding mechanisms. And the developer will, over the next 30 to 35 years, be paid back plus interest that $52 million. So what's not built? A theater, a library, the aquatic center, a vocational ed building, and some ancillary projects such as a snack bar, restroom in the stadium, field house, and tennis courts. So here's a picture of our theater today.
Beautiful.
It's a lovely bark.
It is very water efficient as it stands right now.
Warms my heart.
And this is an architectural rendering of what the theater would look like.
I like
when
that one
built.
better.
It's beautiful.
I thought I heard some oohs and ahs.
Yes.
This is our library, the bark.
Another water conscious development.
Energy efficient, too.
Yes.
And what the library, and we're calling Library Media Center, would look like today, or when built. This is our aquatic center.
I think the other two were prettier.
It's true. I agree.
And what it would look like. And think, you got to think water polo, swim team, diving, youth, swim meets, people working out, all kinds of neat things. Vocational ed building today, it does have a pipe sticking out of the ground. That's the one development we've been able to do. And that's a architectural rendering. And the ancillary projects. So to the left is the restroom snack bar at the football stadium, and to the right are the tennis courts and field house. So what is this going to cost? Phase 3. The theater, which seats 524 seats, $9.8 million. These are all cost estimates from 2015. The Library Media Center, approximately $4.9 million. The Aquatic Center, $2.5 million. But I can tell you now that for cost-saving purposes, we would recommend that we put in solar heating to save our district long-term money over time. Vocational ed building, $2.7 million. The ancillary projects about 1.2, construction costs approximately 6.1, for a total cost of phase 3 in today's dollars of $27.2 million. Here is the very serious point, one of them. The annual cost escalation is approximately 5% per year annually of making the prices go up. So $27.2 million in 2015 is 5% more expensive in 2016, and so on and so on. And the other thing I can say is that the Bay Area real estate boom is also a construction cost boom. And we are an exurb of the San Jose Valley. Therefore, the construction costs are applied to us that are applied over the hill, and not if we went east. So it's a very serious matter, the cost escalation accrual. So this is really the final point. And I say this to our board and our community. In order to finish our high school, and I need to pause for a moment, I need to say very clearly, there is no funding. There's no funding mechanism that exists. And if we want to finish our high school, we have to have a very serious conversation. So let me tell you where we stand right now. The master developer is not going to put forward developer fees as a long-term loan to pay for the finishing of that $27 million in construction for our high school. 2, our governor, in spite of unanimous state legislature support from both parties, blocked a state construction bond from 2014, and he does not support a 2016 state construction bond. As a counteroffensive to that, California Schools Boards Association and the Coalition of California Adequate School Housing have joined together to put on the ballot a state initiative to raise money for state construction bonds straight to the voters for approximately $9 billion. They're in the signature collecting phase, and they seem to be, they're going to meet the mark. So a state construction bond will only happen in 2016 if the initiative goes forward. The governor has said no. Sponsorships. Corporations are not investing in public schools. And finally, I talked about the state match, and I tied to one of them, one of our schools, Altamont, that the state match that's promised to us, which is approximately $10.6 million, is stuck at the state until a state construction bond is passed. When it is passed and our term on the ranking list comes forward, that money will be released to us. So to not be the bearer of bad news, I need to say, and in all candor, there is no funding mechanism to finish phase 3 of our high school. And the money that we have available to us has to come forward through a state construction bond passing by the voters. And so with that said, we have some beautiful plans for an elementary school and the best high school construction project in the state of California. And at present, this is the state of our district and facilities.
So, just to be clear, the money from the developer was not a gift.
That is correct, and let me be clear. It was not a gift. It was not given. It was a loan.
I know that.
And I know, but it's really important because I think there's some misinformation out there.
Just a little.
It's a loan. We're paying it back. We've paid about $4.7 million back to them based on the interest rate tied to the Marshall Swift Index. So it's a loan. And it is tied to lots being sold, but that's happening now, and we make payments regularly to that cost.
Right. And when the developer says, and they've said it, that the funding for the high school was included in the agreement when we started the Mountain House development, they meant $1936 or $1985 or whatever, but it wasn't indexed for inflation.
In fact, there's an expert that exists. Her name is Susan Goodwin, and she helped develop the mitigation agreements. She's an expert in this area. She is probably the preeminent expert. I keep saying expert, but the preeminent expert on Exhibit B. Exhibit B is the driving force between what you're saying. And the reality is that the escalation in costs of the modern world were inaccurately put into the Exhibit B. And it is an area of significant concern because it's one of the reasons why the developers in their loan to the district chose the amount they chose.
And I can tell you that conversations that I've had with the current developer blames the previous developer for not doing that exhibit correctly. I went and met with Susan myself about a month ago and sat down with her and had her go over the exhibit. And she wholeheartedly admits that it just did not, those numbers were not appropriate and didn't keep up with the inflation that we've faced, and the construction costs have just boomed. While the current developer has said to me several times that we've built a facility that's far more expensive than we should have, I disagree wholeheartedly. I think that we built a facility that's functional and that meets what the education program that we're trying to provide. What this comes down to, though, is that they've already used one funding mechanism for the first and second phase. Why not the third? At least that's where I stand.
If I could add to that too, that sentiment of we've overbuilt the schools started with Wickland. According to the original master developer, the school that we built at Wickland is far better than the one we should have built. That's the exact line I was given by a member of the original development company from Trimark. We overbuilt and overspent on all those schools. Now, yes, they're beautiful schools. They are not overbuilt when you compare them to the other schools being built in other communities. If you just go over the hill and take a look at the new high school that was built in Doherty Valley and ask them how much they spent on that school and see how it dwarfs the total cost we spent for ours, I think you'll see my point. You'll also find out if you ask Tracy how much they spent, you'll find out it's pretty close to what we've spent. But if you compare the facilities and ask any student who attended Kimball, who has now had an opportunity to attend our high school, would tell you they see where the money went and appreciate that it was spent. So do the parents who have had students at both of those schools. Secondly, I wanted to point out as well, this board, no member of this board was on the board when the mitigation agreement, or Exhibit B, which is what it refers to, it's an exhibit to the mitigation agreement, were signed. That was signed in, I believe, 1985? 98. But I thought the mitigation agreement was 85. Maybe I'm wrong.
There are three amendments, so the dates shift.
So it's far before this board, who had any ability or knowledge of what this was going to cost, is going to do. And everyone we've talked to has said the escalations were not done correctly. They were tied to an index that no current developer still uses, because they knew that it didn't tie to the actual escalation of costs. And as frustrating it is to sit here and realize there's so much we want to do, it's not much different than the rest of us with our budgets. There's a whole lot of things you might want to do, but if you don't have the money to spend and don't have a place to get it from, you have to look at the harsh realities. And
I have a question on the overspend comment. Is that the current developer?
both
That's-
developers
okay.
have said exactly that. The
And
current
the-
developer said it about the high school.
Okay, that's the same developer that said that prefabs were fine for a high school.
Yes,
have
but
a
also
problem.
said that the high school had no ability to drive the real estate market. Just the same developer, just.
If
again,
I could
yes,
add a
those-
point, Mr. Trustee, we've been asked on a number of occasions to appear in advertisements that help promote the selling of houses. And obviously, we like to promote our high school. We're very proud of it. But I can say that the present behavior is that it is very clear that they know that our high school and our other elementary schools are helping sell houses.
And as far as overbuilding the high school, I think that we built the school that, or we've started to build the school that the developers promised everybody that bought a house in Mountain House.
If we overbuilt our high school, we would not have just seen pictures of 4 dirt fields.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
And I guess one other point of clarification, I have talked with a couple of people and in the community needs to know with all these terms, there's no general fund dollars coming from our district to pay for any of these facilities. And I think that's a misnomer from some people who think schools pay and build, like people do with their savings account and buy and get loans for houses. It's through these mechanisms, CFDs, Melrose taxes, and the like, to build our schools, state matching funds. It's a totally different funding process.
Thank you for clarifying that, because that is a very good point, and that is it's a misconception in the community. I constantly hear that all the money being spent on these facilities and 2 very separate accounts and different types of funding. As far as the state bond, you all know that I'm working with CSBA, and they're very interested in our district to help the fight when they're combining with cash, and they're going to try and fight for this ballot measure to come forward. And I think the governor is not taking new construction into account. I do believe that he's looking at current projects and fixing existing facilities, things like that. I don't think he's looking at new construction, and I don't think he understands that. And because I explained it at CSBA and said that the master plan, our mitigation agreement, the state match is built into it. We need that for the seed money for the next school. That's how we fund our facilities. And I truly believe that it's an oversight on their part. But this is politics at its best in Sacramento.
So, Dr. Nicholas and President Balzerini, what can we do as a board? Would it be appropriate for us to pass some kind of resolution? Is there some kind of action that we could take that would assist CSBA and Cash in moving their efforts forward? Because we obviously need to support their efforts.
Mr.
There's no
President,
money.
I move to approve a $3 billion matching fund.
I second.
That's a very good question, and I think that time will come. I'm on the board of directors. We have a meeting coming up 2 weeks. I'll be in Sacramento, and I'm actually going to be scheduling. I got to check your calendar also. We're going to get the executive director to come down here and visit the high school and visit the facility and take a look. And I think there's going to be lots for our board to be involved in the near future. And more to follow on that. And we're talking about a ballot measure for 2016.
Correct. So the Cash CSBA ballot initiative is being set up for November of 2016. The other thing I need to say for clarification is if the state construction bond passes, it will not be in any way, shape, or form close to getting the high school Phase 3 complete. It would be more tied to the Altamont match funds of $10.6 million. So it's important that has to happen for the elementary school, but it's also important for construction projects for schools across the state.
I have a question that's probably pretty remedial, but bear with me. Like on elementary schools, you build the building, it's not phased. And matching funds, at least under the previous approvals by the state, is based on student population and construction costs. That's the two primary drivers of the calculation of matching funds. It occurs to me that in phase 1 and 2, we built the classrooms, i.e. we've already housed our students with the classrooms and everything. Does that affect, I mean, a pool doesn't really house students. So does that affect how the matching fund calculation would do, or would you just use the same student population with the new construction cost of that particular phase?
So I need to say abundantly clear that I am not the preeminent expert on this. My understanding is that classroom space comes with a funding calculation where kids would be in a classroom, and then there's some other formula tied to the cost of other things. What I would recommend is maybe we find a way to have Susan Goodwin answer those type of questions, because not only is she a historian for the community, but she can answer those questions on a further deeper level in terms of how everything gets funded. She's probably the best that there's out there to explain that.
I think having Susan Goodwin maybe at our next meeting come would be appropriate to discuss Exhibit B, but for those kinds of questions, I think I think NMR is also the route we should go with that. They seem to be pretty good on that.
And I know Wes King very well, and I know he likes to drive over here from Roseville. So if that's the request, he'll be here next meeting if he's available.
Actually, I have both of them. I don't know that Susan's the right person for those specific questions. I think that Wes would know better.
Okay.
Dr. Nicholas, sir,
Yes, ma'am.
if CSBA and cash and this board's initiatives for the fund availability is like successful in 2016, would my freshman class be able to use those facilities before we graduate? Just your projection.
It would be a very tight timeline. So here's how it kind of goes. So let's say, I'm guessing this is subjective on my part. You get the money, then you have to sell the bonds, then you get to start the project, and then they have to rev up, get the people in, all that stuff has to happen, so that takes a lot of time. So you are presently a freshman,
Class of 2018.
2018. Not a chance.
And the money that, and Pasa, the money that we're discussing right now, that would be more for Hanson Elementary. I don't think it would really have that great of an effect
Correct.
on the facilities.
So are you talking about the state construction bond?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that would go, so I won't recommend to the board, it's ultimately the board's decision of when to build Hanson. We won't be in a position to build Hanson until there's enough kids or close to enough kids to really need the facility. And so at present, the last projection I heard was a rapid 300 houses a year, which is subject to change based on the economy, the federal interest rates, and all that stuff. You're talking about in 2 years, you're talking about 600 houses. It's probably not going to generate quite enough kids. That's not to disappoint you, because you still have the best high school in the state of California.
But to address your questions about the high school, we need to find a funding mechanism.
No doubt.
And in my mind, there's only one. I was sold a dream to move to this community. I was sold a dream of what the high school would look like. So the developers need to come through on their promise. I think that being a resident right now in Mountain House for me is extremely frustrating when we can't finish our high school. We can't provide emergency medical services in the community because we just can't afford it. So we have an issue with the county taking a huge slice of the pie and not providing any support for this community, except for overseeing land use, which, what is that? Pushing some paper, that's it. And we have a developer that is focusing on town center and looking ahead when they still haven't finished what's in the past, finish our high school. What we've done for phase 1 and 2 could easily be done for phase 3, and the words that I've heard are, we don't have to do that, we've satisfied our contractual obligation. I disagree.
I'm actually with Mr. Balzerini on this. The problem you've got is you're getting into a fight that's going to cost money to win. But from my perspective, in reading the mitigation agreement, and I've read it more times than I care to remember, I fully agree. The point of this is this, the developer, we don't even pay the developer back. It's not from us. Every one of us who bought a house pays the developer back because they build that fee into the price of the house that we all bought when we bought into the dream of moving to Mountain House. And for them to say they've honored their contractual agreement, I'd like someone to run the figures, please, on what the current mitigation agreement fees are per lot times the lots that are going to be built throughout this community, and you're going to find out that with interest, you're probably looking at 4 times the interest rate they're expecting. At some point when this place is built out, they're going to have more money, and that's when they'll probably say it's worth it. And to my mind, I say 2.2%, you can't get that anywhere for the kind of money they're talking about. For a no obligation, guaranteed when you build that house, you're going to get paid back investment. Any one of you would put a money into a savings account to get 2.2% on it right now today. They have an opportunity and an obligation. I think it's incumbent upon us and the community to stand up to the developer and say, wait a minute. Like you said, Matt, don't look back, don't look forward. Finish what you started before you start the next thing. And honor your promise to every one of us that bought a house here.
And I would just like to reiterate something I said a few minutes ago, and that is we started to build the high school that the developers promised us in the beginning.
And the last thing, or what I would say is, as a person that's been involved in development, our negotiating power with the developer goes down with every lot that gets sold. Because once they've got the money, right, it's after they sell their last unit, they may have more money and be able to do it, but why then? What leverage do we have? So I think this is time sensitive, that we as a community need to band together and address.
I agree. And this is a community issue. This is something that the community needs to rally against, rally around, and we need to work together on this and start doing put our heads together and start coming up with something, because for the developer just to say, yeah, we're not interested in helping you, it's not acceptable. That's just not acceptable.
Phase 3 is beautiful. Honestly, we need to work for that.
I would love to have that from a member of the facility use committee meeting. We need those facilities. We need that theater. I think a lot of good things can come, and I know in a little while you have some questions about Delta College, and I think that's perfect for that conversation. Also, is that theater. So, okay, thank you for the presentation, and if we can get Susan and
Mr. President, if I might too, I believe we just received an announcement of a community meeting at which the developers are supposed to attend.
Oh, that's right.
Might we not want to have perhaps our board president and or superintendent speak? That I've received an email asking for anyone who wanted to give a presentation to the community at this community meeting.
We absolutely can talk
that
about
we
that.
can get on an agenda for that. So I think it might be something we want to look into and consider. I unfortunately can't go because it's again on a Thursday night. But
Okay.
Well, I think we need to encourage our community to stand up, voice their opinion at that meeting, and insist that whoever is organizing the meeting have a public comment section, because the last 4 community meetings, there was no public
it
comment.
wasn't a meeting, it was a lecture.
Thank you. Very well put.
With one-on-one questions at the end.
Yeah, one-on-one questions at the end. And that's,
Can someone ask when we're getting to the grocery store? I don't know if I'm going to be there. Sorry. Inappropriate, I'm sorry. Anything further, Mr. Superintendent?
That's it.
Quarterly cafeteria report, Alvina?
I'm very pleased that Bernie Hill is here. You have the March expenditure detail with the year-to-date, and we've swung in the other direction just in the last 2-3 months, and showing for the current month a 23,000 revenue over expense. The participation has increased dramatically. Let's see, we've got almost 200 average per day meals sold compared to this time last year, and that doesn't even include the high school meals that are sold. So thank you, Bernie. That's making my life easier, not having to worry over that cafeteria program, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bernie. This board was discussing a lot was a much different tone with the last director, so it's absolutely, I attribute to you. You came in and have turned the whole thing around, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I can't believe you're here right now, so thank you.
Item C, District Maintenance and Operations Report.
I wanted to, Jim Nolan followed up with the Verizon cell tower, and they came out and viewed, and the concern that he had initially mentioned was being able to fit it and not get into the walkway area. But when they reviewed it, they found that they could actually fit it underneath the bleachers that are there. Yeah, the bleacher, so it'll keep the walkway clear. The only issue they did find was that the light pole would not be tall enough, and that pole would need to be replaced, and they would take that responsibility upon themselves to pay for that. They did mention the rate was negotiable. That was one of the questions you had asked. The other one was health and safety concerns. It is approved by the Federal Communications Commission, so that was nice to see. And then, let's see here, warranties, they would cover any costs that would be affected by warranties. Of course, we would have to write that in the agreement. And then lastly, because of the timing, if we decide or you decide to move forward with this, would not be a project that they would start before next summer.
Would that pole be replaced or just extended?
Replaced.
So they would
have to
remove
take
it
out the
and
whole,
put a different pole?
yes.
Wow, okay. That it for that?
That's
Thank you
it.
very much. Item D, Mountain House High School Year in Review. Mr. Faubert.
They need to build an even taller one for you, don't they?
They do. Tonight's presentation is a little bit of a repeat, so I know 3 of the board members were there at our meeting last night, but for the benefit of those who weren't able to make it last night, and for the record, we're going to repeat a little bit of the information that was given during our last night's meeting, and it is kind of a state of the school report for the year. A lot has happened in this first year. If you think back to just about 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, when it was basically just a dirt field, and what has been designed and what's gone on this school year, it's very exciting for us. The purpose of last night's meeting and the purpose of this presentation today is to, first of all, talk about some of the successes that we've had at Mountain House High School, and also to talk about some of the room that we have for improvement as we move forward. As with any learning organization and any educational organization, and we continue to implement instructional practices into the curriculum, it's also our hope that we keep an open dialogue with our community, as we did last night at the meeting, and we want to inform people. We want to stay open. I've always said that the high school is all about listening to the customer service, and making sure that we incorporate feedback into the system. So, and as part of a learning organization, we have a continuous cycle of improvement. We planned a lot over our first year while I was here in the district office, and we hired on some staff here. This last year, we have done a lot of doing and checking and acting and trying to improve performance, and we continue to do so. And I'm going to share with you some of those things that we've done and some of the things that we are checking on and planning to do and improve. And this is a picture of our inaugural staff, and we're very proud of the staff that we hired at Mountain House High School. All of those teachers and classified staff have been there this year to support students, and I believe that we've done quite a few things to support the learning environment, and we continue to be reflective about our practices. So, the first thing I want to talk about is some of the successes that we had at Mountain House High School this year. Being a brand new high school, there are some bumps in the road, and the first thing I shared last night and I'd like to share with you is some concerns that were had over the number that was shared in the last board meeting regarding the number of students going to summer school. And that number's changed since the last time we met with you, because we're fortunate enough to have a math department who gives incomplete grades, and when those grades are completed, In a traditional high school, you would just fail students. At Mountain House High School with a mastery-based learning system, we have the opportunity to give a not yet grade, and when they've completed what they need to replace that grade with an A, B, or a C. So the first thing that you need to know is there's 169 students who need summer school this year. That's 34.6% of our student population. This 169 students includes freshmen and sophomores only, and I would want to remind you that when you have a school with only freshmen and sophomores, this percentage is going to look higher because when freshmen transition from 8th to 9th grade, there's always a bit of a higher percentage of students who fail that first year. And so if we had juniors and seniors as well, fewer students in those grade levels fail, and we'd have a larger number to divide into, and it would be a lower percentage. So 135 of the 169 that have to go to summer school include students who have incomplete grades that I stated before can be changed and may be changed before the end of the school year. And 48 of the 169 students that have to go to summer school are actually came to us deficient from outside of our district. That's 25.8% of the total number of summer school students.
Point of clarification?
Yes.
So the 169
Yes.
is apples to apples to what was 200 in the meeting 2
Right.
weeks ago.
Yes.
Okay.
So students have been working to change their grade because they're allowed that time to master the concepts. So that number went from around 200 down to 169 because students are working and completing their work, and they're working on making sure that they move forward.
So then there's a good chance that that number will continue to go
Decrease.
down in the next 5 weeks.
Correct.
Because
But
there's still 135 incompletes. Is that correct?
as of today,
Right. Out of the 169.
out of the 169. And you have to remember that of those 135 incomplete students may also have D's or F's from a previous system or other classes. Does that make sense?
Understood.
Okay. The last thing that's up there that I want people to understand is, I know that there was some question over the math department, and that all of these 100 students who were going to summer school, it was all because of the math department. Well, only 28 of the 169 students have to go to summer school just because of math. Does that make sense? So 28 students, the only reason they have to go is because of math. And there was a misconception, I think, about, all of these kids are successful in everything except for math. And only 28 students out of 169 are in that boat, basically, where that's the only subject that they're struggling with. Okay? So the next thing I want to share with you is a grade distribution report. I don't believe the number of kids who need to attend summer school is a real accurate representation of the success of the students at our school. More accurate would be to take the number of students that we have, which is 489, and each of those 489 students take 6 or 7 classes during the school year, which means for our first semester, we awarded 3,016 grades to 489 students. And what we did is we looked at the grade distribution, and we said, how many of the grades awarded was A's, B's, C's, D's, F's, and incompletes? And you'll notice up here, 87.1% of the grades that we awarded at Mountain House High School in the first semester were a C or above. In fact, if you take a closer look, 70% were a B or above, and only 8.4% were D's or F's. And the rest were incompletes that, again, as long as students keep working on that, can be changed before the end of the school year. So I think this is a more accurate representation of the distribution of the grades and the actual success that students are having. I think there was a misconception that 34% of our students are failing, when in actuality, we're having a great deal of success in our school. This is the other thing that I think is very interesting. Because we have transcript information from all of our incoming sophomores. These are students who attended school outside of our district last year for their freshman year. You'll notice on the left-hand side, because of the transcript information, we were able to calculate the number of students, or the grade distribution for outside our district, and then calculate the number of grade distribution for the same cohort of students. This is just our sophomores who we gave grades to this year, and you'll notice the grade distribution on either side. You'll notice that as sophomores at Mountain House High School, while it isn't a huge improvement, it's higher. The number of students who are succeeding at the high school is higher than those grades that they got before they came to us. So, I can give you an exact number here. It's, sorry. As freshmen, 40% received A's, and as sophomores, 42% received A's. When I say freshmen, remember freshman means out of the district, sophomore means in the district. As freshmen, 27% got B's, and 26% got B's here. 19% got C's, and 20% got C's here. 8% received, 6% received F's, and 3% received F's here. And they don't have I's outside of the district, and only 2% of our students received I's, and again, they can be changed to C's, B's, or A's. So this is apples to apples, year to year, what happened. So that's interesting information, hopefully. So I'm gonna just share now quickly some of the additional successes that we had. And you've heard a lot of these before. We received our WASC candidacy far before most schools do. It typically takes well into the second year to gain candidacy. And then typically schools don't start receiving A to G approval. That's the University of California System's approval for college preparatory courses well into their second and third years. As of today, because of our fast-tracked WASC candidacy and the work that our staff did, we currently, as of today, have 40 approved UC college prep courses on the books and growing by the day. That is huge.
Yes, it is.
This doesn't happen in high schools. It typically takes at least 3 years to get to this point, and we did it in under a year. We have tons of specialized programs, Project Lead the Way. We have our computer science program that will be integrated into Project Lead the Way next year. Culinary arts program is inspiring students who are interested in culinary careers. And we ran an AP class our very first year. 2 sections full, and our students will take the AP World History test this month.
I'm a sophomore.
We have tons of elective and extracurricular programs, as you already know, and we've talked about those a lot. We're very proud of the Challenge Day and the Be the Change Club that started today, actually, after our Challenge Day. We have competitive teams and clubs, and we're very proud of that. Now, we understand it's always fun to talk about the successes, but we want to make sure that people understand that we're not all just about tooting our own horn, that we know how to be reflective, and we know how to make sure that we continuously change, just like that cycle of continuous improvement that I shared. And one of the areas that we need some help and some improvement is in the implementation of our technology and integration and our blended learning program. And the first thing that we really saw what we needed was we assumed too much about students' ability to use the technology in an educational way. That's a nice way of saying it. We assumed that they know how to use YouTube.
They master Call of Duty within 2 weeks
Absolutely,
of it coming out.
We use YouTube to watch cartoons, but we're not really good
they
with
sure can.
using it to teach us calculus or anything like that.
Yes, they haven't done that before. And if we did not explicitly teach kids, how do I watch an instructional video? Because you've seen your kids watch videos and TV nowadays, with their phone in their hand, not looking at the video. And we didn't teach them how to take notes. along with instructional video. We didn't teach them how to use email. We didn't think we had to. And then we realized, oh, none of these kids use email. That's for old people.
But, you know, all kidding aside, you know, as parents, my son will just sit there and work on Call of Duty until he gets it mastered.
Yes.
But he's not going to do that for schoolwork, you know.
No, right. So we need.
It wasn't, all kidding aside, it was a miss, so thank you for.
Yeah, we know it was a miss, and we need to explicitly instruct students, not just once, but multiple times. And I'll talk a little bit later about what we're doing as we move forward.
And I think you make a key point in your slide right there. It's not just students, it's also parents, and explaining to them what homework looks like now, as opposed to what it looked like before. When you saw your kid with a book and a piece of paper and a pencil in their hand, you assumed they were doing the homework because it's what they were doing. When you see them on a laptop, you have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
And if they're up in their room or not, or in the kitchen and you're in the living room, you have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
And we've seen kids at the school who were supposed to be watching videos, watching anything but the instructional videos. So I do think that it's just as important to explain to the parents what that learning is supposed to look like so that they know what to expect on their side of things.
It's kind of interesting because my parents, well, they've always told me that I should use every resource available to learn. So I guess like some people are trained to like use the internet for like Khan Academy or learning calculus or world history. And if my dad caught me like playing a video game on my computer, he knows. Like I can switch tabs, but he'll be all like, "I know you switched tabs."
Yeah. Right. But not every parent knows that, and not every student is as motivated.
That's an engaged parent, right?
Exact. Engaged parent, engaged student. So, but even an engaged student, right, could fall off the boat every now and then. So, the other thing that I think was a huge miss, and you know, I don't know that there are excuses or explanations for it, is that active engagement kind of fell off. We were not engaging students in class as much as we should be. Blended learning strategies and the technology should allow us more time in the class to interact with students, and that wasn't exactly happening. And so it's something that we really have focused on and reflected on as a staff, and we're looking at why that happened and how we can improve it. And again, I'll talk a little bit later about that. Another big miss that we had is we expected students to be responsible and follow along at a good clip so that they don't get behind and are stuck on semester 1 work and semester 2. And so we need to establish a minimum pace in all of our courses so that everyone at least can get to a certain place. The good thing about a blended learning environment is kids can kind of work at their own pace, and we really believe what we've learned is that we need to have a minimum pace. We can let kids work ahead as far as they want because active learning strategies can be designed around a minimum pace, and kids who are ahead can easily participate in something that they learned before and solidify the knowledge of what they learned before. But kids down here who have been left behind by most of the rest of the class cannot participate in an active learning strategy of content that's happening way over their heads. So establishing a minimum pace and then making sure that students, parents are communicated with, and that there's good intervention for students when they don't keep with that minimum pace. The other thing was classroom management in the new technology classroom. Basically what this means is teachers are used to knowing how to take care of the problem when notes are being passed back and forth, but when it's a chat room or the cell phone or whatever it is in electronic means, electronics in technology in the classroom means teachers need to monitor students in a different way. One of those solutions, and as a way to show people that we have been thinking about this all year long, as you remember several months ago we talked about Hapara that's been implemented and it's working well. We've recently re-evaluated use of cell phones in classrooms. We've been very free about the cell phone policy, and we've cracked down on that and said, you know what, between bell to bell, it's instructional no matter what. There are no tabs open that have a movie open in the background. There is no cell phone out in class. You do not have a chat window open. And just we've shut down our Google chat rooms. that students can't use anymore. They'll find something else, but at least we know that they understand they shouldn't be doing that. And the last thing I want to bring up is that we really need to take a look at our mastery-based learning policy and look at checks and balances in students moving forward on that. And what I mean by that is, for example, in our math program where kids are taking the quiz over and over and over and over and over and over again with no reflection, with no practice, with no error analysis going on. And then they pass the quiz and they get to the test and they can't pass it because all they did was guess over and over on the quiz until they got it right. And so there needs to be intentional practice before a quiz or a test can be taken, and it needs to be required. While it might not be part of the grade because we don't grade practice, it definitely has to be done. That when they take a quiz and don't pass it, that it's locked to take again until they met with the teacher or they filled out some sort of error analysis that makes them reflect on what it was that they did wrong, so that the next time they go back to take it, they're actually retaking it instead of re-guessing it. And that will bring us to a point where kids will more reflectively look at what it was that they did and be less likely to just try over and over again. So that's definitely something that we've learned. So this is a list of the things that I just talked about. We need explicit instruction, active engagement, a minimum pace needs to be set, classroom management in the new technology classroom, and the checks and balances to focus on practice, reflection, and review. So what are we doing right now? People want to know, I'm sure the board wants to know exactly what it is we're doing this year before the end of school in the next 4 weeks. What are we doing to ensure that people see that the changes are being made? So the first thing that we're doing is we're taking a look at our active engagement of students. We're making sure that, re-emphasizing that students know what we're working on during class, that there's teacher-directed instruction, that there's discussions, review and reteach, Socratic seminars, small group instruction, opportunities to model concepts, and communicating with parents about what's going on in the classroom. The second thing is making sure that we have valuable intervention. And it doesn't mean when the kid doesn't get it, just go back and watch the video. Especially if they have watched the video the right way in the first place. It has to be small group instruction. It has to be one-on-one intervention. And then communicating again. Communication when students aren't making it. Part of the issue that we see is not necessarily that kids don't get it, it's that they didn't do it in the first place. And communicating with parents to help parents understand how they can motivate their student to complete the work is important. I talked about this, strengthening the mastery-based learning paradigm. And we are redesigning right now that redo, retake policy to require practice before demonstrating mastery, to require reflection and error analysis to master concepts. And then again, communication is important. We need to teach explicit skills, which is what we're going to be doing. We've already developed lists of how to watch an instructional video, and teachers should be starting to talk to kids about that. We'll be using advisory to do things like that. How to take notes on instructional video, what to do next after you've watched the video and taken notes, and then communicating with parents about what that should look like, especially if they're watching instructional video at home. Me as a parent, I want to know, what should that look like? When my kid is sitting down at their Chromebook, I want to know. They shouldn't have any tabs open. I need to take their phone away from them. They should have a piece of paper next to them or some sort of note-taking method that they can use to take those notes. So very important. And then implementing rules and expectations. No cell phones bell to bell. No games, chat windows, or random surfing on the internet. Consistent consequences when it's caught. And communicating with parents the expectations, informing students every time they don't meet expectations to get parents on board about what needs to be done in the school environment. So the last thing I want to talk about is what we're planning for next year. And there's a lot that you probably already know about and a lot of stuff that goes along with what I've already talked about. The first thing is the new bell schedule. I won't go in depth about it. We've talked about it a lot, but it incorporates intervention during the school day. It incorporates professional development collaboration on a daily basis in each of the departments. It gives incentives for students who are motivated to have an extra long lunch. It gives opportunities for students to become peer tutors during our success period. And it could give students opportunities to take Delta College courses during the school day. The other thing is with the new success period, the first 5 weeks of school, there is no success period because everybody starts with an A. Nobody needs intervention quite yet. We re-look at intervention every 5 weeks. So the first 5 weeks of school will be a whole school yearly orientation for students, teaching them explicit skills that I've already talked about. I won't go over those again, but there's tons of explicit skills. In fact, today I posted a Google document for our teachers and said, we have 5 weeks at the beginning of the year. I made a list of 11 things I knew about, and they've added like 15 more things that they believe that we could use. So spending a half an hour every day for the first 5 weeks of school orienting students to how to be successful in this environment will help us.
And that will be all students?
All. Not just freshmen, all. Because even if you were here at Mountain House High School last year, you didn't get it before, and it bears repeating on a regular basis. It cannot hurt any child to hear again, oh yes, that's how I watch instructional video. And there's plenty of applications and programs that will be new from year to year that teachers will want to say, okay, we need to teach kids how to use this new tool. We have the academic study skills classes that have been spoken about before with targeted skill instruction, regular one-on-one academic tracking and counseling with specific goal setting that includes a communication component between teacher, parents, and other teachers. And then this class is already open to any student who wants to take it. And then for students who become severely deficient in other classes, we will make sure that they don't have that cool flex period during the day. They'll get put in an academic support class so that we can support them to do what they need to do. The other thing that we talked a lot about is the necessity of creating a math curriculum on the beginning end of things to account for kids who need a more thorough look at math concepts. We're finding that there are kids who are coming in from our middle schools who don't have the basic math concepts and need a more thorough look at the Math 1 concepts. So there's typically 2 semesters of work to do during a Math 1 class. What this would do is it splits Math 1 into a 2-year course. And in the first year, the first semester covers basic skills. What do you need to get up to speed with before you tackle Math 1 concepts? And then for the following 3 semesters, the second semester of the first year and the whole 2 semesters of the second year, is 2 semesters of Math 1 work spread out over 3 semesters. So it gives a thorough look at math over a 3-semester time plus a skill building at the very beginning. And this supports students who might need extra time and help. It can support our special education students who typically struggle with math concepts. And it still allows our students, by the time they're seniors, to complete the UC required course of study in math to be eligible.
Could I ask a question on
Sure.
that, Mr. Faubert? What about the students who don't need a more thorough look, who
Right.
think mathematically and
We're not getting rid of Math 1.
Okay.
This is in addition to Math 1.
Got it.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
we're going to need to identify this group of students. And, frankly, it won't be very hard. We'll look at who has a D, F, or maybe a C minus coming in from 8th grade. Mm-hmm. Call those families and say, look, math is difficult. We think your child might need a more thorough look and maybe some review of basic skills before they get into tackling this college prep curriculum.
If a student was in Math 1A and got it,
Yep.
they could, I'm assuming, finish Math 1 throughout the year and go on to Math 2 the second.
That's
in their
the
sophomore
beauty
year.
of our
classes.
environment. They can work as quickly as they would like. Minimum pace. If the kid gets into a basic skill building and they're like, oh, I was just lazy, and works all the way through, they could work through Math 1 that first year and work with the teacher and be done and then move to Math 2 the following year. Absolutely. That's the great thing about our program is we can do anything that we need with students as they move forward.
You answered the first part of my question, which was going to be how do we identify which students should go to Math 1A. Now, the second part is more of a statement, I guess, and through the superintendent, I would request, I'd like to see those numbers. I'm very interested to see how many of our 8th graders are going to be recommended for that Math 1A program.
I am too.
Because I agree. This has been an ongoing discussion with this board and the past board that I was on about 8th grade math.
Well, and I really think that it speaks to articulation. We need to see Because our kids, they're getting great, a lot of them are getting really good grades, and a lot of them have struggled with the content this year, and it's a new math, kind of curriculum. I think the other really big thing that we need to remember is Common Core has really required students to demonstrate their mastery of concepts. Before, they got a worksheet with the, the questions on it, and they just answered all of these questions that they had. They're not getting a worksheet, and you can ask any student, right? Math problems are mostly word problems, right? They're being asked to, did you see the eye roll?
You
Yeah.
don't just answer the problem. You have to they make you build models and equations to answer problems that are like that problem. So
You mean to make you do math?
more
'Cause
math.
that's what, if you're going to get a career in
Right.
math, you don't just look to get the
Right.
answer. You have to start with, what's the formula I'm going
Right.
to use to create the solution here?
We've even had students comment this year that they think they haven't learned anything in math class, but they have an A. I haven't learned anything, but I have an A. Well, if you go in and you have to create portfolios, right?
They're very hard.
Yes. And so they say they haven't learned anything, and I think, I'm guessing this, I think the reason why some of these students are saying they haven't learned anything is because they don't have a stack of worksheets that say A on it. But if you were to say, okay, you haven't learned anything, show me your portfolio, you would be blown away at what they're modeling in these portfolios. And maybe we ought to bring some examples of those in a future board meeting to say,
And we need-
this is what you have learned.
Yeah, we also need to keep in mind, as you and I have seen for many, many years, as has Dr. Nicholas, the 8th, 9th grade typical dip in math. And now we've added new way of learning, Common Core. So all of this is compounded. This is not a unique Lammersville Mountain House High School issue.
No.
So it's not an excuse. It's just an observation that this is something we need to pay some extra attention
Absolutely.
to. And I'm thrilled to see that we are.
And it's driving parents insane.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a big misunderstanding too, because I don't think our teachers even agree yet on the articulation between the two, because I think there's a group of teachers at the 8th grade level who really truly believe they are preparing students without really either side understanding what's going on either side. And this will give us the opportunity to look at, okay, what really did we prepare students for?
And if I could, Mr. Faber, just real quick on the math curriculum, because I'm curious, probably from a selfish perspective, but both of my daughters actually finished algebra in 8th grade.
Right.
So are we going to be transporting kids to the high school? Are they going to be taking a class on this in 8th grade at the local site?
So-
And how will that
Right.
transition into when they become freshmen?
So there is a typical math pathway that we've designed into our whole that's one thing we have done, is we've created an articulated pathway. The content we haven't discussed a whole lot, but there's an articulated pathway.
Meaning that Math 1 can be taught in 8th grade.
Or
and
in ninth grade.
And it's the same class, and the
Right.
teachers have worked together. So what I would speak to this is that we need to now go through it once with 8th graders and 9th graders, and make sure all the teachers, regardless of which school they work at, are able to articulate with each other, find out what's working and what's not working. Having worked on this same dilemma, the 8th, 9th grade algebra dilemma in other districts, typically your high achieving 8th graders are going to outperform your middle to low achieving 9th graders. And so the numbers come in like that. So you get, it's really interesting to look into it, but I want to kudos to Ben and his team and Dr. Gill and those teachers at the K-8 level. They've really done some good work building the pathway. So now we got to roll it out.
Yeah.
And that's the problem we're running into is it takes a year or it takes a few months to get data starting to roll. And everybody wants to have the information, the answer right now. And Ben's presentation here shows what they learned over the course of the year. We think this is going to really work, but I'm sure there will be some things that we have to adjust along the way.
So to clarify, though, the idea is to try to bring the Math 1A, 1B model into the 8th grades.
Not Math 1A, 1B, because the model looks more like some kids in 8th grade will be taking Common Core 8th grade math, and some kids will be taking Math 1.
Just straight
In the
Math 1.
past,
Okay.
what we've done is all 8th graders take algebra. when in actuality we were teaching algebra to all 8th graders, but what the CST results were saying was that 60% of them were not algebra proficient when they
Consistently.
left.
Not just in this
Consistently.
school district, in
So-
No, no,
across the board, it's statewide. The
Well,
whole
in
point
our
is-
district,
yes.
consistently, we said we taught algebra to all 8th graders, and when they took the CSTs, 60% of them were not algebra ready at the end of 8th grade. So we said we were doing something that we never actually really did. And those 60% were leaving us, and we were patting them on the head, and they were going over to another district and were retaking algebra again. And many of them were not successful at that either, because they still didn't have the basic skills they needed to be successful in algebra. So we're kind of facing that problem now that it's our own, and we built the pathway to intentionally build in success for students. We're not forcing kids to take Math 1 in 8th grade if they're not prepared, because the new math pathway allows students to complete the UC course of study by the time they're a junior, and to take calculus their senior year if they need to. The old course pathway was there was 4 years before you could reach that. So you had to do algebra in 8th grade if you wanted to take calculus in the senior year, and that's not so anymore. So we were able to build
And
that.
just to complete the circle, 8th grade students who took the general math tests in the old CST model did abysmally. So you have the group of kids that are so disconnected from math starting in the 4th grade on, and then you have kids that are not quite ready conceptually, whatever their experience is, and you were given a choice, force them to take a test they're not ready. I mean, so it's not, this is a ongoing, decades-long problem.
And that was
We
just
believe
kind of the
we've
point I
solved
wanted
it by creating a pathway and getting teachers to work together at the 8th grade and 9th grade level.
Yeah. And Math 1A, 1B is one of our solutions to allow students who need a more thorough look at basic skills first, and then an extended amount of time to cover 2 semesters of work over 3. Go ahead.
We talked about bringing in, what's the word? The math packet.
Portfolio.
Portfolio,
Yes.
thank you. I would actually, given everything that I've seen on Facebook and I've read ad infinitum, I would actually like to see, like a more detailed look at math. And I'm not beating on the math teachers. Just what we're doing, how it's changing, portfolios, examples.
Like,
I
what
just
does
feel like
Math
I
1
need
through
to
3
be
look like?
Yeah, how we're teaching it, and I'm not saying in the next meeting, but my son's struggling in math, and he has his own commentary. I'm glad he doesn't post on Facebook. But to be honest, like, my son is not a statistically representative sample, but every time I've dove in and taken a look at his problem, I'm like, well, okay, you loaded the gun, you pulled it out of your holster, you pointed at your foot, you pulled the trigger, and now you're complaining because you're limping. I like, wow, dude, take
Well,
your beat
and we own part of that too, because we did not teach your son how to watch the video and access the information.
Well, and he was one of the ones you were referring to where it was like, okay, I'm going to retake the
Right.
quiz. Okay,
Until
I'm
I
done.
pass it. And then complain that you can't pass the test.
And-
Gee, I wonder why.
Exactly. And we did hire a tutor and we did fix that. But, so I am interested in taking a closer
We
look
can
at
do
math.
that. We'll set that up.
We're doing summer school this year. That's one of the big things that we're doing for in the coming year to support students who've been unsuccessful during their first school year. We'll have teachers available 4 hours a day for 4 hours a day, 4 days a week for 6 weeks. Lots of communication with parents, making sure students are staying on track. If students need to and parents want them to be, they're welcome to be there all 4 hours. And teachers will facilitate an environment where they can get help, they can be motivated to do the work. Again, I'm going to say, and we believe, because we've seen it in firsthand, that many of these students have not done it. Number one, because we didn't teach them how to access it, which we're going to do before the year ends. That's one of the things we're doing this year. And number two, simply because they just weren't motivated enough to do it. And so, especially if a parent sends a kid to school every day for 4 hours during the summer. And if the parent and the teacher are saying, if you get this done in a couple of weeks, you don't have to come back for the rest of the 6 weeks. When you're done, you're done. Get it done.
I'm glad you highlighted that last night, because
Yeah.
I think that was a misperception, that students may attend all 4 hours, all 4 days.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And if the parents choose to send the kids 4 days a week, 4 hours a day to school, will the teachers keep the cell phone out of their hand?
Absolutely.
And the music out of their ears?
Absolutely.
And
In
the
fact,
tabs?
we would love it if parents just don't send them with a phone. But we can take care of it when they're there, absolutely. I'll be there and I'll help enforce that.
So it won't be like that Mark Harmon movie, right?
Yeah. Summer school.
So is this kind of designed as an optional drop-in? I'm not.
No, so kids have to come at least once a week to meet with the teacher, to talk about their progress. And teachers' main job during the summer is to track kids' progress. And if after 2 days, say they meet on a Monday and 2 days later, the teacher sees that kid's done no work at all, they're going to call home and say, your kid did no work, they need to come in again. And now they're going to be required to come every day until they keep making progress. And then, maybe after a week of making progress, they can try again on their own. But if they're not making consistent progress.
Kind of individualized learning plans for the summer.
Exactly. Well, and the benefit to that as well is typically in a summer school, you can only complete 2 semesters of work, which is 10 credits. Well, if these kids get motivated enough, and again, I think a lot of these kids are smart kids who are just unmotivated, they can finish as many credits as they want, as long as they get motivated to do the work.
Yeah.
It's there. They just need to take advantage
I like
of it.
the individualized pace. I think it's going to be so far from what we are used to in the summer school model.
Absolutely.
Of come and sit all day and it's blazing hot out and your friends are outside hanging out and you're in there just being miserable. So.
Well, we had questions from parents. Well, we're going on vacation. How is summer school going to fit in? And we've said that you've got to check in once a week, but if there's exceptions to every rule, right? Like if you're going on a 2-week vacation and the parent meets with the teacher and the student at the same time and say, look, over these 2 weeks, you need to complete this work. Or before you go, you need to have completed to this point or you're dropped. There are definitely instances where we can make accommodations. Typically in summer school, if you miss 2 days,
Yeah.
They kick
no matter what, even if you're sick,
Right.
even if you had your appendix out,
Yeah.
you get dropped because you have to be there for the seat time.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is mastery-based system. We want you to master the concepts. If you master the concepts on your own time, you mastered them.
So they could technically check in electronically with the teacher by
They
submitting.
could.
Yeah.
Well, especially since our Canvas, I don't know if you know, our Canvas learning management system actually has, and most students don't know this because we haven't started teaching online classes, it has an online communication component, and all of the Chromebooks have a camera, and so the kids can talk to the teacher through the computer. If they're in,
There's the chat, or there's the connect,
big
for
blue
Spanish-
button.
Yeah, for Spanish we have Blackboard Connect,
That
but
too,
that's
yeah.
like a special case though.
Yeah, but there's something in Canvas called Big Blue Button. They go on there. They can speak with the teacher. There's a chat room. The teacher can share their screen with the student to demonstrate concepts and things like that. So there's all kinds of stuff that can be done.
This is so far out of the box and so creative to actually meet the kids' needs. I got to tell you, you've knocked my socks off with this. I'm really impressed because this is definitely designed to meet the needs of the students and not to meet the needs of the teachers.
So the last thing I just want to highlight in what we're doing as we move forward, and this is kind of a given that we already do, but it's a commitment to make sure that we update newsletters on a regular basis. And we have encouraged our community, and if people are watching this later and not in here, part of the communication has to be on the side of the parents. They need to avail themselves of the information that's available. We have a blog newsletter that they can subscribe to. We've had Parent University Night. We're going to dedicate ourselves to do more of those. We have a website. We have Twitter, Google+, Facebook. We do phone calls and emails. So we have multiple ways that we're communicating with our parent community, and we hope that they can avail themselves of the information, and we are making a rededication to ensure that there is up-to-date information on those sites. And then obviously opportunity for parents to participate. We welcome them to participate in our school site council, in our booster clubs, in our PTSA, and any other, volunteer opportunities that they may have at the school.
And I think that the outreach from last night was a perfect example. You did a very good job at getting the word out. I received it multiple different ways, so thank you very much.
Right.
One thing on summer school, I just realized Matt's point, yesterday, where you yesterday said, hey, they can attend as much as they want, but the minimum is one time per week. I got to tell you, even when we talked about it in the last school board meeting and I approved it, I didn't get that nuance.
Right.
I heard the once a week check-in, and that's what I heard.
Right.
And so I think that there are parents that didn't make it to the meeting last night that obviously are affected by this. And so I think we need to get the word out to them as well, a clarification on that.
Well, I agree. And I think that a lot of the misconception, again, over the things that people are concerned about, and then all of a sudden we come up with a summer school program that they think is once a week and the kid does it all on their own. Said to them, they're thinking, oh, this is all over again. They're not really doing anything different. But it's furthest from the truth. Right. So I agree. And just so that you know, summer school letters will be going out Friday. It's a status letter to every student and their parent that states, here's what you need to complete to be high school graduation eligible, and here's what you need to do to be UC eligible. It'll all be on the sheet, and on the back is the summer school enrollment application, and all they have to do is check, yes, my student will be coming to summer school. They'll get information back about what needs to happen, because all the students are going to come on the first day of school, summer school, to be oriented to what's going on and told what they need to do, review some basic skills about how to access the information, and then they'll make appointments with students from there.
So you'll have some skills lessons with the kids in general?
At the beginning of summer school.
Before you assign them to the courses?
Absolutely.
To fill those gaps that you were mentioning earlier?
Absolutely. Along with the fact that we're filling those gaps now, so all students will have that, and then when they start summer school a month and a half from now, they will have that same lesson over again. So I don't need to go through the cycle of continuous improvement again. You know what it is. We are not and have not all year long been sitting and just hoping or things were going fine. We have been communicating about this. I think that some of the things that are already in place, like our bell schedule that we brought to your attention months ago, is a reaction to needed interventions and professional development and collaboration. And so we are a learning organization. We are open to feedback. We continue to be open to feedback. And we appreciate community members that do that in a way that is directly to the school and the district, because we have the best information about what's going on, as opposed to some potential misconceptions people may have about one number that might have been reported out, or a misconception about what comes home to them from their student. So.
One final question, sir. So I noticed that in one of the slides for the future, you said that students would have the chance to take Delta College classes.
Yes.
I just have a question on, because I talked to Ms. Friesen and you signed my form for Delta College, but
Yes.
I heard that because our middle college program isn't being finished, set up yet,
Right.
that other high schoolers from other high schools have priority enrollment over me. So right now, I'm trying to enroll in my chemistry class, and 17 spots are filled, and they already told me that most likely my application will be at the bottom of the stack.
So I don't know that other schools, there are no other schools in our immediate area.
So we just had a meeting with the dean of the school over there, Dr. Garza Roderick, and none of that has come up, but I'll have to check into that for you. What I can tell you is Delta's biggest desire is to build its student numbers. And so what they want to do, they want to build a partnership with us because of the proximity to give our kids a lot of opportunities. So what I've talked to her about is it's not kids getting blocked out of classes, but they want to expand offerings. And in fact, the middle college, early college thing we've been talking about is one of them, but they also offer now 4 full degrees over there. So not that you could get that in high school, but you could get that 2 years out of high school. So I will check into that, but they're looking to expand and they want our kids in their program.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify something that I said earlier. Reflecting on what I said, it made it sound like that I didn't think the teacher needs were important. What I should have said was, and you know me better than that.
You already got paged by the union, right?
Oops. No. Was the individual student needs
Right.
that are being met, and not just that fill the seats in the classroom for the ADA.
Exactly.
I should have been clearer about that. And it's going to be a lot of work for the teachers to
Absolutely.
monitor all those students individually. So a lot of hard work is going to go into this.
Absolutely.
I just want to add an important part of this. You know, we're not just building a new high school and building a new learning model, but even without the new learning model, we still would be building a new high school and facing, I think, a lot of these same challenges. You know, someone wants to say, this is my favorite, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, according to a lot of people, the old system of learning was broken. So I don't see agreeing to and accepting changes in ways, different ways of learning as breaking a fixed model. I also want to say that the plan all along from when we started talking about what we were going to do with the high school was not to build a monument in stone from day one that would never change and never adapt.
Exactly.
It was always intended to be a learning institution for both the staff and the students, that we would look to adapt and adjust to the needs of our students and our teachers as we were going along. And for anyone to think we were going to have a perfect result after 1 year clearly has never taught in a classroom. And I haven't, and I knew better than to think that. I would just say I'm being completely selfish here. My daughter's going to be in this school in a year and a half, and if you don't think I want it to succeed, you're crazy. I want it to be the absolute best it can be for her. But I also know his kids go there. I know his kids are going to go there. I know my neighbors, my family, my friends, and all their kids are going to go there. And for anyone to think that everyone on this board, everyone in that audience who works for this district doesn't see that as the end goal to be the best it can be, I don't think has talked to any one of these people for more than 5 seconds.
And I think that
I
people
wanna thank you all.
forget that I'm a resident of this community who has 7 children. And my daughter will
today.
be.
7
I
today.
said yesterday. 7 today. Yes. Don't tell. Danelle's going to watch this later. So I have 7 children, and my oldest will be a freshman next year. And I said last night, I will have a child at Mountain House High School for the next 18 years.
At least.
At least. Every time he says that. At least the next 18 years. And so if people think that I don't have a vested interest and that I'm sitting up here holding on to some kind of, and we as a district are holding on to, say, Dr. Nicholas's children are in this district. So if we're not just holding on to some sort of methodology that we're wanting to die on a hill for, this is something that we believe in as a board, as administrators, as teachers, and we're going to make it work. And we want people to know that we're not perfect and that learning organizations do change. Look at any good university. They are constantly changing pedagogy. They're changing instructional methodology.
Brought out
to
the
fit
P
the
word.
needs.
And we're obviously not fixing something that's not broken when you just quoted 10 minutes ago that 60% of our 8th graders were not algebra ready, and we thought we had taught them algebra.
Right.
And you said it before, you said it last night, you said it tonight, and I'm going to highlight it again, is this is a partnership, and the parents play a role. And some of the comments that I've heard where, you know, I've already gone through high school, I don't need to sit there and help my kid. Well, I understand, but you do have a responsibility to set your child up for success. And that is communicating with the school, watching the child, making sure that children are doing their homework correctly, as you've described, and communicating when your students are not being successful, because everyone cares.
With the school and the district, communicating your issues and your concerns to this gentleman here, to these folks up here, to your teachers in the classroom, because in the end, you can't fix a problem that we're not aware of. We can't create change or adapt when we're not given the feedback as to how we can do that and what we need to do. And there's not any one of us who has ever been stopped in public saying, sorry, too busy to talk about the school.
Never.
Always.
Well said.
Anytime.
Well said.
I have a couple of questions, and it's the first one is of district staff. I want to make sure that I understood, I mean, the 200 number, right, that we talked about in the last school board meeting, which the Tracy Press reported on accurately. That's what we talked about in the school board meeting. We received information, I just want to make sure, the email where we looked at the freshmen and sophomores that had matriculated from Lammersville into Tracy Unified School District. We asked them, what did those children do in the 2013 or 2012-2013 school year and 2013-2014 school year? This is a different statistic than your pie chart. And in the 2012-2013 school year, 45% of our students got D's and F's, not I's, D's and F's. 45% got D's and F's. Did I correctly interpret that?
At least one.
At least
one.
At least one, right,
So,
right.
so
But
that
was
statistic
apples,
would have qualified under our formula for summer school.
but that was apples to the 200 number that we reported in the last one, which was 41% of our students, right? Was 45% at Tracy Unified under traditional learning, right? And then 2013, 2014, that same number was 42%. D's and F's, apples and apples to 200, which included I's, which is now down to 35%. So what I'm hearing from the community is that the 200 number, which is now 135, right? 169, sorry, it's 35%-ish, whatever, right?
35 point something.
Is that 41% number is an indictment on blended learning.
Oh, I'm with it. I'm all about this.
But if we look apples and apples, blended learning at 35% versus traditional learning 42 and 45%, right? So I look at that and I say that 200 number is unacceptable, because if all of our children would have failed under Tracy Unified, it would not be acceptable for us to say, well, we failed all of our kids, but they all failed at Tracy Unified too. I don't care. But I look at that number and I say, I'm sorry. That is not an indictment on blended learning, because they did better at Mountain House High School than they did Tracy Unified under traditional learning. And then as to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I was actually on the reaccreditation committee for the California State University Sacramento School of Business. They were in jeopardy of losing their accreditation when I was a senior, and which would have meant that all that work that I'd spent to earn my degree would have gotten flushed down the toilet. They had been on probation for 4 years. They only have 5 to respond. And they had done precisely nothing. And what I learned, when I went to the dean, and basically the dean said, you're clearly fired up about this. Do you want to be on the committee? And I thought I was going to be some paper pusher in the back, making copies and stuff. And I was actually on the committee. And what we learned was that we had a bunch of very senior, very experienced PhDs in the department that knew what students needed to learn in order to graduate from college. The problem was they weren't being responsive to the business world, and they weren't being responsive to research schools for master's degrees and PhDs. So students were coming out of the School of Business program, and they were not, the product that CSU Sacramento School of Business was delivering was not the product that their constituencies wanted. And the Accreditation Council, all they were saying was, you're not going out to the business, it isn't broken. You're churning out the same education today that you did 5 years ago. But the problem is the need and what you need to educate your children has changed, and you are still stuck in your old ways. And the reason that I bring that up is because when the WASC committee was here, I had a frank discussion with a couple of them, And I said, I don't want to talk to you about Mountain House High School. I know you can't talk to me about Mountain House High School. What I want to do is talk to you about other high schools and what you're seeing out there. And the number one concern that WASC had was schools are not adapting to the new reality. They're saying what was good enough last year is good enough today. And if we as a school board, I mean, we recognize that there is room for improvement. Thank you so much. By the way, if I didn't say it, great job on the presentation. I really appreciate it. But we recognize that we can improve. We've found ways to improve, and now we're going to monitor and measure and ensure that we do improve. But if we did the same thing that everyone else has done, and the WASC came in 2 or 4 years and said, I'm sorry, what you're not doing is good enough, then we, the district and the board, would have failed, in my opinion.
Kids learn differently. We have to keep up.
You've heard me say several times on this board that the system that we have inherited nationwide was a system that was developed for an industrializing nation, and it has not changed. My grandmother went through my mother went through the same system that I went through, that I taught in. We're now making those changes that are necessary to prepare these students. Perfect example, Mr. Clements. And we're making those changes. No, I appreciate your passion, and I think that passion is shared by everyone on the board. And
by your principal.
Yeah.
Mr. Faber, thank you very much for all the time and effort into this. I know that we're getting out in front of it, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that, and I'm glad that that there is a plan and you have our full support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, oh my goodness, we're only at committee
We have more
reports.
agenda?
We're only at committee reports. Okay. Item A is the Facility Use Committee, and unfortunately, I have a ton of information. We had our meeting on 4/27, and it's not getting any easier. There's a lot of stuff. As you see later in the agenda, we have some stuff coming forward, but there's a lot of things that are kind of in progress that I want the board to know about. Relay for Life is, we've made an exception to the rule for Relay for Life. They're going to be using the restroom. We're going to give them a 1-hour custodial charge for that. That's outside of the handbook, but something that the committee's allowing. There's a huge discussion around the track, which we'll get to, I think, in the future here on the agenda. Mr. Faubert, as part of my report, I have a question for you. We were going to follow up tonight on the availability for the junior Mustangs to use the track for their event. You and the athletic director were going to see if you could juggle the schedule around.
We did.
So they can be accommodated?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We made a decision as a committee for Altamont that if you reserve the track, you're also reserving the field. So the field is off limits during those times and vice versa. There was an issue.
Is that just the field that's inside the track?
Correct. Yes. It's considered one.
Kind of the only field over there.
Yes. It's all you can reserve at one time.
Well, you've got some dirt fields.
The committee approved the use of an additional classroom for the CAM Learning Center during the summertime, which normally we don't allow it, but we made an exception to the rule. It was reported there's going to be a fence added to the perimeter of the baseball fields at the high school. It's going to be secured during non-event, non-reserved times. So it will not be accessible to the public except for if they reserve it. And there might be more discussion on that. Some of the discussion that we had is going to be followed up by staff. Overnight field trips by outside school organizations. We're looking for information from other districts and how they do it. School organizations that want to use our facility to spend the night before a big event. I guess this is a common thing. The committee had paused and we asked for some additional information from staff. Also, we're talking about displaying the permit that's provided for the field use, so people know that the field's off limits except for the organization that's reserved it.
When you say other schools using our facilities for overnight, you're talking about sleeping bags in a multipurpose room, for instance?
Correct. Also, displaying the permit. And The rest I will cover when the agenda item comes up. Shane, do you have anything else? Thank you. Okay, item B is a district advisory committee. Mr. Pombo, any report?
We have had no DAC meeting since our last board meeting, and our next DAC meeting is May 11th at 6:30, next Monday.
Thank you. Item C, District English Language Advisory Committee.
The DLAC met Tuesday of this week.
I was ill, I had to miss it.
And we did, the members of the committee in attendance did approve the English language master plan. So that'll be brought forward to the school board presently.
Item D is the Gate Arts Music. Is there a report?
At the last GATE committee meeting, we saw a very informative presentation on how the district is working hard to develop a comprehensive GATE program that will address the needs of all our students.
I would add that the discussion focused on identification of when and identification specifically when to identify and how to go about doing that. There was a lot of comments and questions. It was well attended, by the way. It was a significant improvement from the previous one. But I think that Dr. Nicholas and I, after speaking afterwards, realized that, I think we need to do a better job in those meetings of making it clear the pieces that have already been determined, right, based on previous attendance, previous surveys, versus the pieces that we're discussing, that are up for discussion, and we're looking for direction of the people that attend now, because I think even I fell into the trap of, we can re-engineer this thing, and so if I threw a monkey wrench in the works, I will take the appropriate beating in the next committee meeting. But anyway, I think that that's one of the things we should articulate at the beginning of the meeting. Okay, this is a summary of what we've already discussed and decided. And if you weren't there, I'm sorry, but we have these things on a monthly basis, et cetera, et cetera. Here's what we're doing to move forward. Is I think the takeaway from that.
Perfect. Very good. Thanks for the report. Item E is Safety and Crisis Response Committee. Nothing to report. We haven't had a meeting since our last board meeting. And item F is Wellness.
At our last wellness committee, we discussed plans for the upcoming farmers market at the schools, which coincidentally start tomorrow morning at Lammersville, and they will be at all sites in the upcoming weeks. We also discussed the at the time upcoming Relay for Recess, Put a Cap on Cancer, and that's a successful program that we're running in the district to raise awareness about cancer and cancer prevention, and also to raise a little bit of funds for the American Cancer Society Relay for Life that, as Trustee Balzerini mentioned, is coming up June 20th at Wickland School.
Very good. Thank you very much. And moving on to governing board reports. Basta, did you still have anything? No? Okay. Trustee Clemens?
Yes, I attended, obviously, the high school meeting, and again, thank you very much, Ben. That was obviously, and the rest of his staff and district. That was obviously a lot of work and took a lot of time. I appreciate it. I did attend the Wickland auction, had a lot of fun bidding against Trustee Pombo again. But anyway, that's it for me.
Okay. Trustee Nielsen?
I'll just mention really quick, I also attended the Wickland spaghetti feed. Thank you to the School Foundation for the invitation. My kids always love the spaghetti. I looked at all the fun stuff to bid and kept seeing these two go after it and go, yeah, no, that's not going to work for me. Second, and I'm glad Mr. Faber stayed, because first I'm going to apologize to the board for missing the last meeting again, my school conflict, which shouldn't get in the way and hopefully won't again in the future. That I wanted to give this report at the last meeting. Prior to the last meeting, I was able to attend the high school's presentation for Challenge Day. And, a lot of what the community has been talking about is that we're not responsive to concerns. And even before there was any discussion about bullying and some of the issues at the schools, Mr. Faubert came before this board to talk about this program and urged us to bring it on, to pay for it, to put it on at the school, inviting the high school kids and then some of the select 7th and 8th graders from the elementary schools. I took it upon myself to want to go and attended the meeting and the seminar. What I can say is, first of all, that was one of the most emotional days I have had as an adult. To listen to some of those kids, to see some of those functions, the cross the line one particularly, punched me in the gut to see what some of these kids would admit had happened to them in their lives. All of that said, and I have to be careful what I talk about because part of it was a confidentiality in this day, but all of that paled in comparison to when one student got up and said openly he didn't recognize his behaviors were hurting other students, that he was the cause of some of their pain and some of their suffering. And that student looked all of the other students in the eye and said he was going to change. And if nothing else, when I walked out of that meeting that day, I said, this board needs to do that again, because that was worth every minute, every cent that we spent to hear that one student acknowledge and understand and learn and agree to change. And like I said, that was one of the most moving experiences I've had as an adult. I went, my daughter went, and I can even see some of the changes in her behaviors towards other people from that day. Not that I think she was a bully, but you do see some things in how they respond and how they react. And I would say Mr. Faubert could probably point to a number of students who were there that day and seeing adjustments in their attitude and personalities and in treatment of other people. Even if they weren't problems before, there's still that much more of an improvement. And I am hoping you bring that back again to this board next year, because I will stand here and pound on the table to say, yes, whatever we have to do, bring it back. It was fantastic. Thank you for bringing it. Thank you for allowing me to attend. And I really do hope we see it again next year. Oh, I wanted to add one other thing on that. No, there was something else I want to mention. One of the things in there was be the change. Be the change you want to see. And I would just urge some of our community members, it's not a bad motto. Be the change you want to see.
Well said. Trustee Lampel, anything to report?
Yes. I'll also apologize for missing the last meeting. I was ill. I did have the opportunity, so I missed a couple of meetings. But before going to the Wickland spaghetti feed and watching these two go at it, I attended, which I would have reported last time, the Cuesta spaghetti feed and live auction. It's amazing how much some people will spend on cupcakes just to beat the other person. So
That's the whole idea, isn't it?
I know, it is.
It's for a good cause.
It was a great cause. It was a blast to watch. They're both so competitive, and of course they buy the cupcakes and then they share it with everyone in the audience. So you two are the source of a lot of entertainment at those things. But it was. I'm glad I was able to attend all of those. It's amazing to see the community turn out and raise lots of money that it's going to be spent on good things for kids.
I believe I reported on this at our last board meeting, but since Trustee Nielsen talked about it, I will again mention that I also attended the Challenge Day and had several heartfelt hugs with my fellow trustee. But since then, I attended the aforementioned Wickland Spaghetti Feed dinner and had a good time, good food, good auction, lots of fun bidding against others. The next night, I attended the Bethany School Foundation Family Art Night, and there was a lot of fun things to do. My wife and kids painted tiles that will be put up somewhere on the campus for eternity, I understand, so that will be interesting. I also enjoyed the art auction there, although I didn't have anybody bidding against me.
I really regret not going, but
I also attended the aforementioned gate meeting, and as I said, I thought it was a good presentation that we got. I also attended the bingo at Mountain House High School. The VAPA puts it on, and that's always a fun evening. And then I also attended last night the community update meeting at Mountain House High School and thought that it was a very, very good presentation. And I had seen it already tonight, but I thought we got a lot of good information on it tonight as well. That's it.
The only thing I have to report on is kind of in response to a lot of emails and phone calls, I had to kind of wrap my brain around the math program. So thank you to Mr. Faubert and Dr. Nicholas. I did go to the high school and visit, and it was an eye-opening experience. And I was only there for the afternoon for a couple classes, but I definitely want to go back and continue to watch because I learned a lot. And I don't know, I mean, I think back to when I was a student, and I don't know how I would do in that environment, and that's why I'm very interested to see this moving forward and see how our students react to it. So thank you again for that.
Mr. President, one other reported item. I did make Principal Gonzalez at Wickland an offer he couldn't refuse to accept me as a principal for a day. And he asked me if I wanted the tourist version or the real principal version, and I've requested.
I jumped in and I said, he gets the real version.
I've requested the real principal version, so I'm looking forward to that.
You'll have to let us know when that is.
He spent a lot of money for that opportunity.
Okay, here we go. Action items. Item A, consider approval of updated fundraisers for Wickland Elementary School. Any staff report?
None.
I move we approve the updated fundraisers for Wickland.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B is consider approval of the Facilities Use Handbook Amendment Number 3. I'm sorry, folks, this is going to be fun. Alvina, would you like to give the report?
Sure. As you can see on page 17 are additional changes that we will be making to the handbook in the fall, I suppose. We discussed the field use stadium and adding an application window, a second application window between the first being December 1st through the 15th and then June 1st through June 15th. And then also adding to the handbook, no skateboards or bikes allowed in stadium and no dogs, because that was not in the original handbook. Being able to split a couple of the fields at some of the sites is actually the next two items. Being able to separate Lammersville into two fields, Wickland into two fields, Cuesta into two fields, and then charging a $5 fee to each one of those fields. And then, of course, we had no restroom fees identified for custodial cleanup, and there are the occasional requests for an event to use the restroom, so we just added an additional custodial fee for a cleanup.
I have a question on one of those items. The number 12 item J says no dogs. Is there a reason why we didn't say no pets? Because somebody's going to show up with their pot-bellied pig or
That is a fabulous
monkey.
It is.
Fabulous
some
idea.
other-
That is.
Yes,
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you for, oversight.
That and me.
No
me-
ferrets?
I'm
Let's call that,
me no horses
Animals.
because we had
Snake out here yesterday.
a horse.
yeah,
Recall
we can
the
make an
horse?
exception.
Okay.
We'll just call it no animals, and should the Mustang come back, the committee can overrule it.
Yeah, that's a special event thing, yeah.
So, thank you. That was an
Yes,
oversight on our
good
part.
point.
So tell the Gophers they have to leave. It's in the book.
Yes. If only that would work.
I love it.
That's the problem. We just hadn't passed a policy saying they couldn't be there.
They're compliant.
Not. The other item, and you know what I'm going to do is, in the interest of time, I'm going to ask that staff bring this back on the next agenda as a discussion item. And Mr. Faubert, if you can make sure that the athletic director comes to the next meeting, we need to have a long, in-depth discussion about the track and use of the track by the public. The committee discussed it for probably half of our meeting.
Yeah.
And we were getting nowhere. So this is a discussion the full board needs to have, and there's a lot of different issues that need to be kind of looked at, and a decision needs to be made by the board. So if we can add that as discussion, please make sure that Lavinia comes. Appreciate it. So with that, I will save us the heartache and we can move on.
I move we approve the facilities use handbook amendment number 3. With
As amended.
As amended, yes.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, consider approval of revised administrative regulation, AR 1325, advertising and promotion. This also came from the Facility Use Committee meeting. You want to do it or you want me to do it?
It's number 6.
There was discussion by the committee, and it's not clear about the banners and the size of the banners. When we set the policy, the dimensions were 4x6, and there was some belief that it was up to 4x6, and I guess there's different types of 4x6. So we had to clean up the language in here to say what I can't even find the text now. The new corrected version is, banner size shall be 4 feet by 6 feet finished. I guess that's the word that has to be given to the company so they're uniform. So that's what we're bringing forward tonight, is to make these banners uniform.
And I know how much work that the committee puts into researching this stuff before they propose changes. So I am happy to move for approval of the revised administrative regulation 1325 for advertising and promotion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Wait, yeah, I was just waiting for it. So I was contacted by a member of the community who has purchased previously several approved non-4x6 banners. And it was always my understanding, and when I talked about this then, that it was up to 4x6 and no larger than 4x6, but the language is very clear. And when I was contacted by that community member, I said, the language is very clear. It says, shall be 4x6. I don't know that this is something we want to entertain looking at again in the future. I'm not sure I'm sold on the aesthetics if they all have to look the same. Now, maybe that's just me and I'm only one voice, and for now, for tonight, I'm willing to go ahead and go with this, but I just don't know that necessarily that has to be a permanent fixture. I do think that there should be some allowances for, oblong ones or different sizes and shapes that might conform to, if it's a football and they want a football shaped banner, well, you can't have a football shaped banner unless it's exactly 4 feet by 6 feet, and it won't be. So it's just things like that I kind of worry that when you get too strict, you don't allow for any amount of creativity. And to me, I think my overriding concern was the aesthetics of banners being too big, banners getting tattered, ripped, and not replaced. And so I do think that at some point I would like to readdress this as a potential item in the future. That's all.
Okay. First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D is consider approval of the 2015-16 Governing Board meeting calendar. Any staff report?
None.
Any discussion by the board?
I'll move for approval of the 2015-16 Governing Board meeting calendar.
Second.
I only have one comment. I will be out of town August 5th, so I will miss the first board meeting ever.
Since like 1830s. No.
1876.
Exactly. Fillmore, I believe.
Well, we might have to address that in the future. That might not be acceptable. No, that's all right. Let's move on. That being said, motion?
I made the
It was
motion.
motioned. It was moved and seconded.
I'm on this side. Okay, first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item E is consider approval of the 15-16 Montessori lease agreement for preschool, before and after school care. Any staff report?
Just simply, this is a program that we've had in the district. It's going very well. We recommend that we approve it again for next year.
I move we approve the 2015-16 Montessori lease agreement for preschool before and after care.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, consider approval of memorandum of understanding between the Lammersville Unified School District and the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office. Staff report.
We just want to thank the Safety Committee, the Sheriff's Office. We've done a lot of work on this MOU. It's been signed off, and we're ready to go forward.
And I, for one, am thrilled. So I will move for approval of the memorandum of understanding between Lammersville Unified School District and San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office.
I'll second saying I for two am thrilled.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
When do we get them?
Yeah.
When do we start? When the hiring
You can
process?
start
I wanna
moving
be-
forward with the hiring process as early as tomorrow. We can contact and get it rolling.
And starts July 1st, correct?
Correct.
Okay, information discussion items. Item A is the MHCSD and LUSD joint board meeting. Potential dates,
So we can get out our cell phones now?
please.
Will Mr. Faubert take them away? Oh, it's after the bell. We're okay.
It's for an assignment
The goal was to shoot for somewhere in June.
in June.
For purpose of clarification then, given that we just scheduled July meetings, and we already have our June meeting scheduled, and they already have their June meeting scheduled, we're talking about not a Wednesday.
Correct.
We have to be, correct? Because they meet the opposite Wednesdays we do.
Correct.
Usually.
Unless we would like to donate one of our meetings entirely to that, which,
I don't know if I missed something. I know we've discussed it in the past, but what is the agenda item?
great question.
I don't believe in having meetings for the sake of having meetings. I don't have that kind of time. I'd rather be doing stuff for the schools.
Corner captain.
The inspiration is twofold. So the inspiration is twofold. Work was begun with Steve Gutierrez and Gabe Karam, their former CSD member or GM, and President Balzerini and Trustee Pombo and myself. We'd like to find something that common ground to work on, and community safety was the topic. And the offer was put forward that the two boards work together. I think it might help resolve some of the other issues out there in terms of that as well.
So community safety is the agenda item. Okay, that was, okay, June. I have no idea when my work graduations are.
And mind you, we don't know their schedule yet.
Mr. President, if I could also say, it's on the same topic. I just found out today that former GM Jan McClintock passed away. So I thought we should acknowledge that as well.
Can we add to the next agenda a moment of silence for her, please?
I will just give for my share, I would prefer a Monday,
Monday?
but
Okay.
understanding I'm only one of 5.
Mondays work for me.
I have one Monday in June.
Actually, Mr. President, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them.
I'm sorry. I have one available Monday in June. I work. I actually have a job that I go to once in a while.
Yeah.
June 15th is the only day. June 15th is the only day that I can do it.
Oh, that's right, because we only have
Oh,
a meeting in June.
what about the 24th?
I can also do the 24th.
Since it's a Wednesday, I'm sure is everyone's calendar clear for that?
Is it a CSD meeting date?
It is not.
They only have one meeting in June. Well, I don't know if they only meet once a month, but.
No, they meet every other, they meet on the,
Second Wednesday, right?
yes, they currently only have one meeting. They only have one meeting a month.
So do we want to give them the 2 dates just in case to give them a little bit of flexibility?
Is everyone available for both dates? 15th?
I'm checking the 15th. I have to learn how to use my phone, sorry. If Mr. Faubert had let me have it out in class, I would.
Jimmy, am I available on both those dates?
Okay, so the 15th or the 24th.
The Wickland and Cuesta librarian tells me when I'm available.
The 15th should work for me as well.
Okay, so we can submit both days, 15th or the 24th, whichever works for
What's
the board.
the time that we're looking at, 7? A regular starting time?
Yes,
think that was
please.
Yeah, I think that would be
Okay, good.
appropriate, 7 PM.
Yeah. So it was the 15th. I got it in there.
That was my
And what
next
was the second one? The 24th? Okay, thank you.
I don't
I
really
think we
care.
should flip a coin for home field advantage. I don't
No,
know.
well, they can stream, so, you know, the discussion could be live
I don't know if we can get all of our people in there.
in their boardroom.
I believe the GM was thinking maybe possibly doing it not in either, Mr. Pattison was thinking neither boardroom, but also in like I want to say a neutral field. But
I'm
you
going
use the
neutral
baseball-
field, yeah.
You use the baseball thing, so maybe possibly our high school or something like that. So that's a possibility as well.
I'm sure staff can work out the logistics. Any further discussion on that? No. Good. Item B.
One other discussion. If it is held at the high school or some other venue for that matter, will there be the availability to record the meeting? Or
I'd really like it recorded too.
Yeah.
I think that's a fabulous idea.
Yeah, we will, whatever it turns out, we'll make sure everybody's desires are taken care of like a filming.
Thank you.
I have to get Bob Corden to do it.
Yeah,
Does he come out for stuff?
sure he will.
No,
Item-
Bob never comes up for.
Item B, eighth grade promotion ceremony. Where did graduation? Governing board attendance. 5 schools, 5 board members.
I will only add this. Barring my untimely demise, I need to be at Wicklands next year. So I don't have to attend Wicklands this year and will attend any one of the other 4 if that will help other board members. But again, I do want to be at Wicklands next year for a very personal reason.
and fearing for my untimely demise, I need to be at the Lammersville one this year.
Okay, Pombo's at Lammersville. Anyone?
I'm wherever you need me.
Okay.
I was at Cuesta last year, so we'll go
I was at
somewhere else.
Wickland and one other one
I
last year.
think I've done Bethany and Cuesta.
Although if somebody had their running shoes on, they could go to Lammersville's at 5:45 and still hit Altamont's at 7.
Maybe.
5 schools, 5 board members.
Oh, that's a superintendent, never mind.
Okay.
Actually, I'm more than willing to do Lammersville and Altamont because it should be about an hour. Yeah,
I'll put you down. I'll put you down for Altamont, and
if I
you
get a
can-
chance
yeah.
to.
I'll do Wickland.
Okay. Trustee Clements?
Wherever you need me.
Matt, do you want to?
But in 4 years, I will be at Mountain House High School.
I will too.
It's Lem's last one.
Sure. I'll go to,
Get a little
I'll
thing-
go
I
to,
think thing from the board.
yeah, that's a great idea. I will go to Cuesta, and Colin will go to Bethany. You got Noah?
Bethany it is.
Thank you. Okay.
Madam Librarian, I'm going to Bethany. Make sure I'm there.
Okay, the calendar, all the committee meetings are listed, and the next regular board meeting is Wednesday, May 20th. Next item is going to be to adjourn to closed session for 4 different topics: public employee discipline dismissal release complaint, conference with legal counsel, conference with labor negotiators, and conference with real property negotiators.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.